This is a map of the Pyongyang Metro. If you've never seen it before, it may seem like it's not even big enough to be categorized as a metro, but it is, and it's the only one in all of North Korea. There's just two lines, the Chollima Line and the Hyoksin Line, and they each have 8 stations for a grand total of just 16 altogether. This is obviously extremely little, especially when you compare it to a map of the Seoul Metro, belonging to their rivals South Korea, which is one of the best, if not the best metro in the entire world. But this is to be expected, of course. North Korea is the most isolated country on Earth with a closed economy, which, as a result, makes them very poor. They follow the ideology of Juche, which emphasizes extreme self-reliance and independence. The problem with this is that metros are extremely expensive to build and maintain, something they simply can't afford to do. More than that though, metros are often very reliant upon specialized imported components, which they can't access on the global market, or at the very least, rarely do. We can see this with their passenger trains. Since 1997, the Pyongyang Metro has mainly used former West Germany Class D trains from the Berlin U-Bahn Metro, originally built in the 1950s. They were just given a new red and cream makeover with portraits of Kim Jong-un and Kim Jong-il at the end of every carriage. Some of them even have German graffiti etched into their glass windows from way back, but that's besides the point. If we were to look at how Pyongyang's metro actually functions, it's actually half decent, given what the situation is, thanks to some technical aid from their closest ally, China, who does public transportation incredibly. They get anywhere from 300 to 700,000 daily riders, or if we were to take the average of that, about 183 million riders annually, which is more or less the same as Lisbon's and Bucharest's. They run every 3 minutes during rush hour and every 5 minutes throughout the day, operating from 5:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. But the best thing about it though is its price. The Pyongyang Metro is by far the cheapest in the world to ride, at a price of 5 North Korean won, which quite literally comes out to half a penny. Yes, just half a penny. For context, the next cheapest, an Uzbekistan fare, is 11 cents, 22 times more expensive. The payment system nowadays is via a contactless card. Gates display the number of trips remaining on the card, with the trip being a tap on entry and exit very seamlessly. On the other hand, because of the isolationism of the country, there's often shortages of electricity and parts, which leads to massive breakdowns of not only the metro system, but every other form of public transportation. But we'll get to the others soon. How it affects the metro though is that they frequently stop in the middle of their operations because they're in a poor state. This is especially the case in winter, where trains just stop in their tracks because they can't get constant voltage. The voltage drops, or the voltage suddenly surges and it blows the fuse on the track, leaving many people stranded until repairs are made. Much of the infrastructure wasn't made that well, and if you look back at a map of the metro, there's a reason all of it lies west of the Taedong River. In the beginning of the 70s, both North and South Korea had been working on building their metros, with it being a Cold War-esque type of race to see who would finish first, for propaganda purposes, obviously. And North Korea actually finished first, making Pyongyang Metro operational in 1973, almost a year before South Korea's Seoul Metro. Though granted, they started on it 6 years earlier in 1965, as opposed to South Korea starting in 1971. But this came at a price. See, when you rush the base, everything gets affected in the future. In 1971, construction of a tunnel to carry the subway under the Taedong River collapsed, killing some 100 laborers. And there is baggage with that trauma. To this day, no line runs across it nor are planned to, and of the 16 stations, only 2 were built after the 70s, which happened to be the most grandiose: Puhung and Yonggwang. So the Pyongyang Metro is actually very limited in the reach it has, or may ever have, while Seoul's is a masterpiece. Then there's the metro itself. It's very unique in how it was designed. It's among the deepest metros in the world, with a track at over 360 feet underground. Because of this, it takes almost 4 minutes to go from the ground to the platform by escalator. The metro is so deep that the platform even maintains a constant temperature of 64 degrees Fahrenheit all year, which is actually pretty nice. It also, of course, doubles as a bomb shelter, with blast doors in place at hallways. It's for this reason that it was designed so deep, and really we can see these kinds of alternate purposes for the metro everywhere. Every day at 6 a.m., a rendition of Where Are You, Dear General?, a song composed by Kim Jong-il, meant to build community and gradually preach a communist doctrine, is played over a speaker at the stations. Or if you look at the names of the actual stations themselves, they all translate into revolutionary slogans, such as Victory, Reunification, and Comrade, rather than being named after streets, areas, or famous people. Everything about the Pyongyang Metro is about propaganda, or rather, depending how you use it, unity. You can see these themes reflected in how they're designed as well. For example, Hwanggambol Station, meaning Golden Soil Station, is decorated with murals and mosaics celebrating the agriculture and farming industry, while Konsol Station, meaning Construction Station, depicts the reconstruction efforts after the destruction of the Korean War. And to be fair, these stations are beautiful. To show a bit more, this is the Yonggwang Station, which means glory. These extravagant, multicolored light fixtures are designed to look like fireworks, meant to represent the victory celebrations after the war. 2 mosaic murals adorn the walls, each 260 feet long and depicting the Taedong River, which flows through the capital. The socialist designs definitely show parallels to the ones in the Moscow Metro, such as the Komsomolskaya station. And just like the Moscow Metro, passenger lines are only a small fraction of a much larger subterranean network located 1,000 feet underground. Stations are regularly patrolled by the military and reportedly linked to underground defense complexes, while a series of secret lines are used exclusively by high-ranking government and military officials. This is all according to Hwang Jang-yap, the highest-ranking North Korean to ever defect, who served as the chairman of the Supreme People's Assembly and responsible for crafting the Juche ideology himself. They were so elaborately built that a visiting Soviet military delegation marveled at them, he said. Now, while the single metro in the country sounds pretty okay for the most part, the problem is that North Korea overall doesn't keep anything to the same standards. This is a map of North Korea's railway system. Looking at it, there's quite a decent amount of tracks, about 3,700 miles of them to be more specific, which is actually more than South Korea's 2,700. But the problem is, they aren't really good, at all. The Korean State Railway is the only rail operator in North Korea, and it seems they don't care too much about maintenance. The poor state of the infrastructure severely restricts operational speeds. The average train speeds are as low as 12 to 37 miles per hour, whereas in South Korea, that's 37 to 64 on non-high-speed lines. Only on the Pyeongbu line, traveling from Pyongyang to Kaesong, are speeds of 62 miles per hour possible. This travel time is increasing too. While the distance between these two cities is just 110 miles, it's been reported that a trip can now take up to 6 hours. And like I was saying with the Pyongyang Metro in regards to shortages, it extends to the railway too. Just in December of 2023, for example, a passenger train traveling through Danshin Station to Kumgol Station was climbing a steep slope when it was hit with a combination of outdated railroad tracks and insufficient power, causing it to lose speed, slide backwards, and eventually derail, killing 400 people. This happened in winter too. Now, I'm not trying to be unfairly critical or anything. I mean, top Western railways have derailed and resulted in fatalities too. But the thing is that this is a repeated problem that is honestly pretty simple to fix, given their infrastructure problems and not human errors, which is the majority cause of derailments today. Then we have everything else, the trams and trolleybuses. Very few details are known about these two systems due to the closed society of North Korea. But we do know some things, and they are important, given, well, all the fuel shortages coupled with the literal ban on private vehicles makes them a necessity. But I'll get to that in a moment. The trolleybuses are the next most used form of transport in Pyongyang after the metro. There's at least 370 of them in stock, all domestically manufactured, with the exception of weirdly some Hungarian Icarus buses, servicing 12 lines for 35 total miles of track. It's also been very hard to come by information regarding the services outside of Pyongyang, but we now know that around 12 to 15 other cities also possess trolleybus systems, like Sariwon, Wonsan, and Pyeongseong. A few other places have very small systems, like literally only 1 or 2 of them, just meant for transporting workers from a housing area to a nearby coal mine or industrial site, like in the city of Sangneong. As for the trams, we actually have a map of the system, so that's something. There was originally a tramway system in Pyongyang before the Korean War, but was discontinued due to significant bombing. At least that was until 1991, when it was reopened because the trolleybuses gradually became overcrowded. There's currently 4 lines for a total system length of 33 miles, and they're really only found in Pyongyang, Wonsan, and Chongjin. What's funny though is that just like how the Pyongyang Metro has German trains, a large portion of their trams are from the former Czechoslovakia, but as of 2018, they've been slowly switching to domestically produced trams. Now back to what I mentioned earlier. Cars in North Korea are not really a big thing. Although it's widely known that it's almost impossible to escape North Korea from the inside, it's also pretty hard to go to just another part of North Korea too. Movement within the country is severely restricted. Those who want to go to a different part of the country are required to have a specific purpose and obtain permission from their work supervisor. These types of regulations also extend to cars though, sadly. Unless a civilian driver receives a special permit, it's forbidden to drive alone. The concept of a private car is also extremely rare. When you combine mass poverty, tight restrictions, constant fuel shortages, and an automotive industry that can only produce 40 to 50,000 cars a year for a country of 26 million people, you end up with just 2% of the population owning cars. Most of the cars are state-owned, which you can tell from their blue license plates. Then there's the black license plates, which means they belong to the military. The green means embassy or NGOs, the red means foreign nationals living there, and finally the yellow license plate, the rarest, unsurprisingly meaning actual North Korean citizen. That's why of the few roads there already are, they usually look pretty empty. This leaves walking and biking as very used forms of transportation, if not the most used in all of North Korea. So all in all, it's been a long journey for North Korea's public transportation, especially given how much they've had to rebuild following all the bombings from the Korean War. But I believe much more needs to be done to even hold a candle to their southern counterparts. I'm not sure if I'd call it terribly designed or surprisingly decently designed given their circumstances. But what I do know is given the expertise of Asian countries in public transportation, especially the smaller ones, there's definitely a lot of potential in North Korea. The question is, will they ever choose to fulfill it? Of course, the answer to that solely rests on one person, the Supreme Leader. Thank you for watching.